Hi guys, and welcome back to Aid's workshop. Aid's cold workshop today. I have got the heater on up here, and it's not too bad in here actually, but it's really cold outside. Probably 1 degree. Yeah, maybe this time of day it's midday on a Sunday. So yeah, it's probably 1 degree outside. But yeah, it's been very mild up until the last week or two, and then this has caught us with a bit of a shock. And I know there are areas in the world where you get it a lot colder than that, and you'll say, "What am I moaning about?" But yeah, we're not used to that harder frost here in Pembrokeshire, or harder cold, generally speaking. Well, the reveal of the Alexander D-bit grinder, I'm going to call it. That's what everybody seems to call them. I think it's like a little universal tool and cutter grinder type thing, but it's not like a full universal. It's very much a bench top version. So that seemed to have gone down well. Right, so this episode, as you probably will have seen from the description, is a bit of a mix-up of different projects on the go. Haven't really done anything on this yet. We get on with the mini lathe and do a little bit more on the mini lathe. I'll explain what the hold-up's been, and it's just a case of looking for inspiration, really, on the mini lathe. So anyway, we're back on it now, and since recording the clips you're going to see, I've ordered some more bits and bobs as well, plugs, sockets, that sort of thing. Anyway, and of course at the same time I didn't have enough footage of that, so a bit more of the Webster engine, not much, just an update and an idea where we're going forward with it. And I've ordered a few other bits for that, just to keep that rolling along as well. Belts, I'll just say the word belts. I changed my mind again. Ooh, I went in a few different directions on belts. Yeah, I've got one I can use, and I've got one on order that's going to be right. Anyway, I do like to do things right, and I thought about cutting a corner, but decided against it. You'll see in the clips to come. Anyway, guys, enjoy. So, project updates. I've been sat on a mini lathe project for ages and not done anything on it. It's just one of those, I came to a stumbling block, and it was like, how am I going to wire this up with the sort of versatility I need in my little shop here. And I didn't want to have it like hardwired in so that it couldn't be moved, you know. It's sort of fastened onto all its electrical systems. So what I've decided to do, I've bought another plastic enclosure here, another junction box, 240mm by 190 by 90mm, and I had a piece of DIN rail, and I've gone to my local electrical factors and bought a bag of terminals, DIN rail mounted terminals, a couple of end stops and what have you. So my plan is, let me take you to the wall and show you. So as you can see, up on the wall here, we have my inverter system, the original enclosure that's got the power supplies, all electrical connections. It's got the stepper controller, all those bits and pieces are all in the rear box, and then the inverter on the front here in the air, and all the cables coming out of these glands, which originally these were a mock-up, but they were going to go directly to the lathe, you know, in multi-cores or what have you. So what I'm going to do is fit the second junction box underneath this, maybe make up some tubes or what have you to feed the wires that need to come from here down into the second box. It's a bit crowded in here, so I'm going to take the stepper driver out of this back box, put it in the lower box. I got plenty of room, just it's really congested in here. So that the stepper driver, then I was going to put the little pulse generator in the control panel of the lathe, but as this box is going to be quite close to hand, so the feed lead screw drive system, so I'm going to put the switching and the pulse generator in the previous box I just showed you with the DIN rail mounted terminals, and I'm going to wire it all within the second box. And then all I'm going to have coming from the lathe then is the power supply to the three-phase motor, the power supply or the control four wires that go to the stepper motor. Everything will be enclosed in that box, and then all I've got then is a 24-volt supply that will run down from there down into the headstock. The controls from the inverter will still be let me get the box. Oh, I've got to 24 to 12 volts reg in there, so that this box, all it's going to have in it is going to be the digital display for RPM and the motor controls. So basically the remote from the inverter system to on the lathe here, so that all the wires that's needed to go to the inverter to control the motor, you know, the stop, start, forward, reverse, speed control, that sort of thing, will be on the lathe, talking to the inverter up on the wall. So yeah, that's my new method, and obviously then I'm going to have there'll be probably one plug from the inverter, there'll be a plug from the main motor, not the inverter, from the stepper motor, there'll be a 4-core, there'll be a plug from the motor, from the inverter, the power supply to the motor, there'll be a separate plug and socket, and then of course there'll be a multi-pin plug which will run all the other wires that are going to be needed that go for the control. So what I'll be able to do, what it'll allow me to do, is to unplug the lathe, take the lathe away, put it somewhere else, should I need to. I've got space on the wall here to put the box, because I do, as we all know, I suffer from a shortage of space in the shed here. So the little lathe, the little mini lathe, when it's completed, I will be able to push it back and away and into the corner, out of the way, when I want to use that bench space for something else. I can just unplug the plugs and take it away without disturbing any wiring.
So no time like the present, let's rip it off the wall and basically start again.
So as you can see, there was all sorts going on in this box. I want to remove the stepper driver out of there and put it in the second box where all the connections are going to be made, just to try and simplify things. While I've got it apart now, I'm also going to drill all the air holes in this box to let air out of the top and all the rest. As I'm filming this, it was one of those things, I knew I was going to take it all apart again, having done the initial wiring. This was purely a mock-up, but that's where we're going now. So we move forward a little, guys. We've got the terminal rail and the stepper motor in position. That's going to go in the box over here somewhere, screwed into the lid. Yeah, you know, it's coming along slowly. I'm probably going to put a directional switch, well, maybe put them up the top here, and all the cables are going to come in from the upper box in this area here into this DIN rail, be connected up onto the soldered connections, probably on the sockets on the underside. All this wiring will be internal to this box, a bit less complicated at the lathe end, and then the 4 wires that go to the stepper motor will probably come into here, into the top of some of these terminals, and then out to their appropriate plug and socket. So yeah, I mean, it's coming along step by step. So slight change of plan. I've always found it a pain when you've got units mounted on the lid of the box and everything else is inside when you come to remove the lid and work on it or what have you, because you've got wires connecting things up. So I've changed plan and I put the little signal pulse generator up there. And the knob's going to be on the outside. Can you see it? Yeah, there it is. I haven't put the plastic knob on yet, but that's well tucked out the way of everything, but easy to access when I'm operating the lathe to change the feed rate on the fly. So yeah, I think that's just going to make it easier than putting it on the lid. I have just connected up the wiring between the pulse generator and the stepper driver. It's 4 wires basically. The brown one here is a common which bounces onto the to the positive of everything, and then in this case I've used yellow for pulse, orange for direction, and green for enable. I did write, can you see it? Yeah, I wrote with a Sharpie what they are. So the common, enable, direction and pulse, and wire those into the board. And because I can't access the screws up here, I've just put 2, a red and a black, pos and neg, which is the 24 volt power, so it's going to be 24 volt in this case, but 24 volt power supply to that. So I haven't connected any 24 volt, sorry, here, to to the stepper driver yet. It's going to be 24, as I said, and these are the tails of the 4 wires that drive the stepper motor. I'll probably put those, rather than run through terminals, I'll probably save a few of these terminals for another day and probably wire these directly to a socket on the bottom of the box, which yeah, so I'll probably wire these directly to a socket down here somewhere. I have got some small 4-pin plugs and sockets, solderable ones, so that's probably the way I'll go with that. So I've started doing a little bit of wiring up while I assemble here, because sometimes it's easier before it gets too congested. So alright, I'll probably get called over for this, but I'm using brown and white for 24 volt, positive brown, negative white, and I'm just going to use these terminal 19 and 20. If I don't use them all, I can always drop off this end. So 24 volt positive DC. So the supply from the top is in brown and white, so I'm just going to keep going with it. So when I bring my wires in from the top box, from the power supply, the brown and white are going to go in these N2 terminals. So with that said, I've run the outlet from the terminal onto the 24 pos on here, bounced it off. I've got these double tube terminals that take 2 wires, and then, or bootlace terminals I think they call them, and the brown one runs on. They won't actually fit in this little board, but runs onto here, and of course the same with the white. So I'll just use my wire strippers. I want about 8mm of strip on here. Okay, so I'm just going to double those up. Okay, I do like these bootlace terminals. I've been using them for a long time, and these are like a shotgun one, so you can get 2 wires in, as you can see, and that's at the point where the copper wire is sticking right out the end. And I just take my little crimp, and okay, that squeezes the whole tube up, as you can see there. So I'm just going to feed that underneath. I got plenty of spare wire. And then, is that terminal open? Will be in a second. So this is 24 volt ground. So pop that in there. I've removed the 4 wires that go to the motor temporarily, just to give me a bit of space. Okay, that's nice and firm. So tuck that under there with the other one, out of the way. Okay, let's put a bit of a 90 on it. Okay, those 2 wires are now running under there to the pulse generator. So if I cut that about there, little cutter, okay, bare the end of that wire to the same sort of length, but 8mm. Oops, nearly lost the lot. Let's give that a twist. Right, I haven't got any of the single ones, I've only got the shotgun ones, but they work just as well with 1 wire or 2. So again, copper wires just sticking out the end. Let's crimp that into place. Okay, that's in there forever. And fit that into what's going to be 24 volt negative terminal. We need to undo that a little. Okay, right in. That was under more than I thought. What have I done here? Something weird going on. Just check that terminal, something's not working with it. Is it underneath or above? I don't know. Have I got a duff terminal here? You know, that was unscrewed too far and it's not lifting now. Okay, let's just pop that terminal out a minute. What's going on?
Okay, I think we've got it now. I unscrewed too far, or it was unscrewed too far. It wasn't doing anything. Pop that back in. Let's try that again, shall we? That could have caught me out at a later date, couldn't it? Let's just check another one. The other one seems fine. Might be able to go in a little bit further. No, it's in. Okay, so where we are now is when my 24-volt supply comes in on the top. I will have to piggyback that onto another 2 terminals because I do need it to go out to the lathe as well. So we'll have another brown and white coming out to the lathe at some point. But when my brown and white come in, 24 volts, it'll come onto those 2 terminals with using these shotgun ones again, bounce onto the next 2, and that'll give me an opening then to go off to a plug on the bottom of the box. So that's the 24 volt supply for the pulse generator and the stepper controller or stepper driver. So little steps in the right direction. Now I have got, probably show you, these are the 4 wires. You probably saw them in a clip earlier on that are going to go onto there. They're going to come onto a socket on the bottom here, on the bottom of the box. So I'm not going to run those through the terminals. There's no point really. They can come straight from there, straight down. I've got a means, you know, a quick disconnect point within the box anyway. And what's handy is with the terminal rails, why I've done it rather than just run them straight through the box, the wires, is that it's easy to solder a short piece of wire onto these plugs and just connect it into the appropriate terminal than it is to, you know, try and solder them in place in the box. I can take the terminal, solder the wires on that are needed, or the plug socket, drill a hole for the socket first, solder the wires on loose random lengths, and then just tail them up into the terminals, and then the ones that come down can tail into the terminals. I'm trying to make life easy for myself here, and I got all sorts of junk in the box. Let's just keep the rubbish out of there. So little steps. So as I haven't got enough content for a mini lathe part 17 video, this is going to be a bit of a joint one with 2 projects going on at once. So yeah, let's get back on the Webster engine. So Webster engine update. Moved on a little bit. In Shed Talk 28, was it? I'm not sure. In the latest Shed Talk, you saw me cross-drilling the 2 holes to pin the flywheel to the crank. We'd already pinned the web on. You'll see a little tiny hole in here, and I've also gone down the route to pin the smaller of the 2 timing pulleys onto the crank as well. Reduce the pin size there. That's a 2mm pin, but that also fits and is locked on the crank when it's fitted. So when the crank is, let me just try, and I haven't got a bearing in there, but not to worry for this demonstration. No, what are you doing, Ed? Let's do this again. Hold on. I tell you what I'll do. I'll get the other bearing. I don't actually need it. So that pulley goes. Let me just make sure I don't lose that pin that I've cut to length. That pulley's going to go on there. Let's just replicate this. Oh, more fingers and thumbs today, and everything's cold in the shed here. But yeah, that's the general idea. That pulley's going to sit somewhere around there. What have you done here now? So I made a mistake. I ordered the belts, the timing belts, and I had it in my head it was 4mm wide. They should have been 6. My question to myself is, am I going to order the right belts, or am I just going to use this belt? I mean, it doesn't matter. There's plenty of room. You know, there's going to be a bit of extra slack in the width of the pulley for the belt. It may wander back and forth a bit, but hey, no biggie, no biggie. So obviously that belt I'm going to use. I am going to use the 4, and it's going to sit something like that. Can you see? obviously it will sit something like that when it's all together, and there's going to be a separate block here with a bearing both sides, a block here bolted onto the bed, a hole over here. This will run on a shaft and will be pinned to that shaft. And then over on the back side of that shaft that will rotate in two bearings will be the cam, and then the cam will actuate on the rocker arm here, which will actuate the valve. Okay, so that's where I am with it, sort of in the plan and design. If I can get hold of one of these 6mm belt before I do, yeah, but the reason I'm not moving on, I want to progress with the project. Now, I was lucky to get this belt at the length it is. If I can't get a 6mm belt this length, then where I put the pulleys and what have you will be in the wrong place. I've got two of these, so I did order a spare. So, yeah, I'm just thinking of, do I, you know what? I just had a thought. Could I get two of them on there? You know, if I was cunning, I could put two 4mm belts on there, but that's another story. So, obviously, further to that, I drilled a few more of the holes in the little valve block assembly here. So drilled it. I turned down the heads of some of these tapered screws to make them not stick out the side. Countersunk them, bolted the sandwich together, and you can see it will bolt onto the cylinder head there. And let's just take those screws out. I've only done them in a couple of turns. They need cut into length as well. So yeah, there's the valve port there, which makes up with the valve port there. So that's where all the air is going to go in and out of the cylinder through that small hole. I need to make the valve guide stems, the valve guides now. One goes in the top plate here, one goes in the bottom plate and goes down. Bottom one being exhaust, top one being inlet. So yeah, I think I have enough bronze to make those valve guides out of bronze. So I will be looking into that and seeing if I can make those up. And I've intrigued myself now. Can I fit two of those belts onto there? Would that be silly? Yeah, that would be silly. I can't fit two on. So yeah, I'm in two minds at the moment. I'm going to look and see if I can get a 6mm wide belt at the length these are. I forget the length now. I did have a little bag. 230mm, T5 230. These are by 4, and I needed T5 230 by 6. If I can get them by 6, I'll put them on order, and at least I can use this belt to make up wherever we are. If I can't get them, I'm going to go with this belt anyway, because I just want to progress with it. So the good news is I've just ordered a belt of the correct length. Again, 236mm wide this time, so I can get one, so that's good news. So this is going to mount down here somewhere. Now the original height, can you see it? I don't know. The original height of the camshaft was, I believe, 2932. Let's call it 23mm up. So I'll try and keep the same, and that will allow clearance, because I've eyeballed through the hole with a pulley on the inside, and it does allow enough clearance underneath this pulley. So happy with that. So I need to make a little block up now, so that when, let's just get those, when this is located, which it will be a little later on, what I do know is that I'm going to have to machine this pulley back a little to be able to get them in line. So I'm going to have to machine a bit off here, but that's neither here nor there. That's just simple turning. So when I do that, I'll have the two pulleys in line in this direction. It won't quite work. Well, it would, but I'd have to offset the outer block, or the bearing block that's going to hold the shaft that this is fixed to. I would have to offset it. I have no reason I couldn't do that. Might do that anyway. Let's see. Keep the standard pulley then, although it's so easy to chop a bit off that face. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So I need a bearing block now, but I do want to have not adjustment, but an easy way to line it up. So what I'm going to be doing is having this bearing block that goes on here that holds a bearing, another bearing in here. I'm going to have it so that it's bolted on from the top as opposed to from the underneath like everything else is, but that'll be absolutely fine. So I've done a little sketch, I'll take you to it. So, sketch number 1 up here. Let's take him out. We decided against that. I was going to bolt it on from underneath, and then I thought if I stick some outstands or outriggers on this block, obviously it'll be all tidied up at a later stage, but that allows me to screw it down from the top, and it can be removed for belt changing, that sort of thing. Well, I suppose everything can, but at least you haven't got to disassemble the whole engine. So, original hole centre of the original, we'll call it camshaft, was 2932, approximately 23 mil. And if I put my pulley on that centre so that this block is higher than the top of the pulley, as it were, I need about 7/8, another 22 mil. That will give me 45 mil overall height. Again, I've gone 40 mil wide, so the pulley is inboard. You know, you can't get your fingers in between the belt and the pulley. So 40 mil wide, and then 15 mil stuck out either side, gives me a 70 mil base. So I'm looking to block up now this rectangular piece and then put the steps on that as sort of step 1. So 45 by 70, and write it down, 45 by 70. Let me just write 15 on there, 15 just as a reminder for myself, but typically 40 from 70 leaves 30 off either side. Anyway, I'm just waffling, guys. I could actually, thinking on it, put the bolt down right down through, but nah, I think that'll look okay, and we'll probably do the usual rads on the top to match in with all the other moving parts as well, or all the other parts of the framework. So yeah, I'm going to block that up now. A piece of aluminium stock of an appropriate length. If I cut 70 mil off there, it's 50 mil wide at the moment, so it'll only be 5 mil to come off the one way. So I'll chop a piece off, hacksaw again, 70 something mil, and then we'll block it up, do the steps either side, then look at putting the hole in accurately from one face at 23 millimeters. I'll have to dig the bearings out, can't remember what size they were, but hey yo, let's just do it. So I think you guys have seen me square up a piece of stock before to a size. So yeah, I've just put the fly cutter up, going to go around all 4 sides. In fact, for the ends, I think I'll probably do it with a with an end mill. That way I can flash off one end, both, and then just when I flash the second end, I can put the 15 mil step in one go, one setup, and then just flip it 180 and do the same the other side. So that's my plan. A slight change of plan. Just decided to flash it over both sides while I've got the fly cutter up. I think that fly cutter might need a bit of a hole. Anyway, so yeah, it just saves a lot of work with polishing later on, you know, if I just give it a quick flash both sides. So just let it run to the end there. I'm running at a fast speed across here. Let's just give it a little bit of WD-40 on there. Okay, so I'll flash both sides and then we'll do the cutouts in the ends. That's quite a nice shot there. Side of the cutter coming into play now. Front side going out of play. Bit of smoke off that WD-40. And that finish looks sweet. I've got a line up here I'm working to. 5 mil at the pass. Just roughing this out at the moment. 12 mil cutter. That's better. It's sticking up a bit out the vise, but it's not to worry. Likes it better with a bit of WD-40 on it. So I'll take like 2 5 mil passes and a 4 mil passes roughing out, just approximately to my line, and I'm going to leave it 8 millimeters of full length. So I'm just keeping an eye on it. When it gets somewhere near the line, I'll stop, but just roughing out for now. Could have hacksawed this off, I suppose, but I'm not in the mood for hacksawing today. And I've already hacksawed that 70mm piece off, or through 50mm of this, I should say. Can't see now. Yeah, about another 3mm. If I stop about there, let me just give myself a 0 in X. Okay, so just bringing the DRO into play. Let's whiz back, take another 5. Very much roughing this out. That was 5mm. That's 10. Back the other way. Okay. So just milling to a depth, to a shoulder. I'll pass back and forth when we get to the end. Speed things up like a cut, get some finish, that sort of idea. So, finishing cut. 0.9mm. I just measured it all up. I've got a datum set on that end face now of a 0 on my DRO. I'll just run this up fairly close. Okay, let's just come off there. There's my datum. Okay, that, my friends, is that end done. Flip it now. I'll have to sit it on the edge of the vise. I'll have to reset that end datum, but that's easy enough. So flip it 180, clean it all up round here. Do the same on the other side. Well, there we are, blocked up. 45, 70 overall. 8mm by 15 step either side, which brings this down to 40 wide. Yeah, I mean, all outside faces, not doing anything. Important position is going to be from the base to the hole for the bearing, and make sure I've got exactly the same in the other one. There'll be a couple of drilled and counterbored holes down in here, probably M4s, that's what we use for everything else. And then we'll probably do some beautification at a later stage. One thing I haven't showed in a while, I use these like organizer boxes, fairly cheap on Amazon. So all the bits, screws, pins, everything I've got, behind the camera, you know, the crankshaft, all the work in progress stuff that I, careful now, I don't tip it all out, all the work in progress bits that I've got while I'm making something like this. You know, there's the crank with its crank pin, screws, cylinder heads there, yeah, various springs I've collected, spacers, washers, all the little bits and pieces and peculiar tools like the small screwdriver and whatever. I'll stick in that kit, and then when I'm working on a particular project, I know I've got everything in one place, well, to a degree. In fact, I've just realised I've left that pulley out. I'll put that back in there, but the main base plate sort of sub-assembled there anyway, so I'm not going to lose anything there. Well, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. A bit of a mix-up of mini lathe and Webster engine, and obviously we have this unit is going to be the next project along the way, but I'm really want to finish off or get the other two projects that are on the go a lot closer to a finish before I start looking at this. I have had a few suggestions of things to do and what have you, so yeah, I mean, there's various things. I have taken the wheel off and the wheel carrier, or the wheel hub, shall I call it, but no investigation as such. Anyway, as usual, guys,
thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and welcome to all new subscribers, and we will see you all very soon. Cheers now.